Hello, can you check to see if you're getting the disturbance?
Yeah, it's okay now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm,
Uh, so today we'll be starting off with our next set of a partition called as a dynamic partition. And wherein in our last session we have seen what is static partition. By the way, like HIVE provides us with the two set of a partitions. One is static and one stands for the dynamic. So the static is nothing but it's not. So it is very good, well to know that you are having some input, different set of files coming from a different sources from the client feeds, and you are already having a table. So that is thing is like you need to firstly create a table and derive the partition on top of the table, and then you can directly load of that input data files feed into your tables directly. So that is most useful in such kind of situations. Whereas in dynamic partition, I need not create a single wise partition by partition by partition. On a single command, like on a single set go, each and every partition has to be made it. It has to be created on its own, and the data also be loaded accordingly. So this
okay.
comes with the dynamic set of a partitioning in Hive. So as we have seen that in order to work with the static partitioning, there is a set of commands or a like a set of a mode that we need to execute it.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was like say hive exe dot the partition should be non-strict mode. So by
For
default it will
this
be
for the
sorry.
static partition, we usually partition do the partitions before we even perform the operations, right? Like we
Yes.
just make the partitions and keep it aside.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So let me proceed with the practical.
Okay. Let me know if you get any disturbances, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. So even for the dynamic partition, are we supposed to create the partitioned by column?
Yeah. You are mentioning the like you're creating a partition out of on the top of a table, for example. But you need to specify
Okay.
on which column you want to specify the partitioning. That is what we are mentioning it.
Okay.
Whereas unlike in static partitioning, what we have done is like in static partition, whenever we are created, we just need to mention the same whole thing as well. Like so for example, when we are created a partition, like d equals to 11, I want the particular column number as
Oh,
well. Like yeah,
y yes. Yes, yes. Okay. So field submitted by comma. Row format delimited. Written code.
so already exists.
Table
Okay,
already exists.
okay, yeah. Let me. Okay. So okay, my table is now been created. So by default, the dynamic partition mode will be off. So we need to set it
Okay.
to true or we need to set it to enable. In order to set this particular dynamic partition mode into true, we need to set the property called set hive.exec dot dynamic dot partition equals to true. This has to be executed. So now again, there is
Okay.
one more set of like transaction, one more set of aspect has to be looked into. So whenever I am setting this partitioning mode, or whenever I'm setting enable this property like hive.exec.dynamic, nothing but it is hive.executable.dynamic.partition equals to true. So whenever I am setting this property, so except the primary partition, the rest of all the columns in the partition will be dynamic. For example, when you are saying like something like partitioned, TI, you are mentioning something as D integer, nothing but your department number as integer, and the other thing is some gender of that particular person as string. So this stands, whatever the first partition or the whatever the first column you are mentioning in your partition will be known as a like primary partitioning.
Okay.
Whatever the first column in you are mentioning in your partition columns, the first column will be called as a primary partitioning, and the rest of the partitions, like in static partition, we have seen in one case, like where we had only partition on a simple column and as well as on the multiple columns. So in so apart from the first column which you have specified will be called as the primary partition, and the rest of all the columns, if it only
Dynamic
is,
partition.
I mean, you can mention any of the partition that will be called as the rest of the other partitions. So whenever whenever you are setting this property, the rest of all the columns which has been stated in the I mean partitioned columns will be made as a dynamic,
Okay.
leaving this particular primary partition. Now I want this my primary partitioning also be, and I mean, it is also to be a dynamic one. So for this, I need to set another more property, that is nothing but set high dot
Okay.
mode equals to non-strict. By default, what was our mode in the way of partitioning in static? So while static, we were doing it was in strict mode. So
Okay.
hive.exe.partition.mode was strict mode. So
Okay.
by default, it will be the strict mode. No, so whenever we want to get involved into dynamic partition, we need to set these properties firstly. So the first property, by setting the first property, which is called as hive.exe.dynamic.partition
Okay.
equals to true. Rest of, apart from your primary set of it, can you mute it?
Yeah, yeah, I just, yeah, sorry about that. I'm in the office today.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so we have to set these parameters before we even create the partitions.
Yes, I mean, like you
Okay.
can create a table, no issues, but before loading the data, one
Okay.
point we have seen in while creation of a static partition, the moment you have created a table or your moment you have created a partition, you on like your table, partitions won't get created. When you
Okay.
start loading the data into the partition table only, then the partitions will be created.
Okay. Okay.
By till then, you will be only be coming into conclusion that yes, I've just created a partition, but actually the physical partitioning set will not be created. It's
Okay.
only into your logical thinking that yes, I have just derived a table, I mean just created a table in the way of dividing so and so data in something else.
Okay.
But when you start loading the data into the table only, you'll be able to see the set of the partitionings.
Okay.
So in the same way, one you create the table, no issues. But before you load some data into the table, you need to set these properties. The
Okay.
first property is being set like hive.execute dynamic.partition equals to true will be enabled.
Okay.
So the rest, apart from your primary column or the primary column which you have specified in your partition the columns, nothing but apart from this partition, all the rest of the columns will be made dynamic.
Okay.
So I want my primary partitioning column also to be a dynamic. So in order to make it dynamic, I need to set this another property called set,
Non-strict.
dynamic.partition.mode equals to non-strict.
Okay.
Because by default it will be in strict mode
Strict
because
mode.
it would be a static partitioning.
Okay.
So I need to make it to non-strict, and then only my primary partitioning column will also be made as a dynamic one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Set hive dot execution dot dynamic partition equal to
So this is my property. Now I
okay.
have created a table already. Like let me start loading the table in insert override. I can use insert into table. Once I use the insert into table, it is nothing but your whenever you are starting loading the data or key data into the table, so it will keep on appending the data to a
Oh,
like data already been present in the table.
okay.
So override will make erase of all the data which is present in the table and it starts loading the data
New
freshly.
data. Okay.
Yeah. So, when in case of a static partition, what we have mentioned, when it was a department number equals to 11.
Equals to
Again, yes, say, it should be sex equal. I mean, like gender, it is either it is a male
yes,
or either it is a
male.
female, something like.
Yeah. It's
So
like a
now we
weight
need,
class.
yeah, now we need not create all those things. Directly, you can
Okay.
mention your set of this
E-
partitioning.
e-
Just pass on the alias
Yes.
names.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
And now select. Now this will throw an error.
Okay.
Why? Because, yeah, let me show you.
The executions of those are non-existent. The
See
commands
here.
did not
Yeah,
exist.
yeah. Please see here. How many set
Okay.
of columns have been present in my table called dpart1? ID integer ID
Five.
1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And
Five.
the way,
Yes.
yeah, these are the five physical columns, and the two logical columns on which I am applying the partitioning are D and S.
Yes.
So there are department number and like say gender has been also been described, but I
Yes.
am not using the same thing, right? So I
Yes.
just mentioned the D and S. So five physical columns and two logical columns. Altogether, seven columns has to be present.
Okay.
Now, when I started loading the data into this particular table, uh, let me show you. Select start
The
from.
dynamic partition strict mode requires at least one
Yeah,
static
please see
partition.
here. How many set of a columns are present actually here now? One, two, three,
Five
four,
columns
five.
only.
Yeah, five columns are present.
Yes.
And hence this particular table has been it has thrown an error, stating that
Okay.
it is semantic exception. It is expecting seven columns, whereas we have given only five columns to load the data into
Okay.
the particular table. So now what we need to do is you need to select. Instead of select star from EMPL, instead of placing star, mention the column names like where you want to load the data.
Okay.
Yeah, these are the five different set of the physical columns: ID, name, salary, and sex, gender, and department number. Again,
Okay.
what are the different set of logical columns that I am just mentioning in my
Mm,
partition columns? D and S.
Department and yes,
Yeah, D
DNS.
is D is nothing but department number. Again, S is nothing but your sex, nothing
Sex.
but
Yes.
your gender. Yeah,
Gender. Yeah.
gender column. But what in which I mean, what is the name of that particular columns in the table actually? In the table, we have mentioned it as a department number only, right? So
Yes.
I need to pass on again the department numbers information to the variable called D. So
Okay.
again, I need to pass on my the data from my column called as gender sex
Sex or gender.
to
Okay.
yeah gender to my variable called yes
Okay.
from ELPL.
Dynamic partition strict mode requires at least one static partition column. The when you put the non-strict modes on the top, I guess it did not execute. Can you go scroll up, or maybe I read it wrong? because you ran them on the.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know for which position. I know for which position you're talking about. This is what.
Yeah, when you ran these non-strict earlier, they threw an error. I guess the DNO is different from the original department. You can scroll up to see what we used.
Okay. All these.
Okay.
All these are serial.
So let's start from not EMPL, right? It's from department, right?
Okay.
But from here only, right, we are passing the information to EMPL only that we are loading it, right?
We are loading from the EMPL, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But you mentioned the 5 columns of the old table, depart 1.
Okay.
You see, check the columns of department.
I'm an H1B.
DNO.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, D1 start from EMPL.
Okay, it is
Location.
location.
Yeah,
So there's no data.
because the table schemas are different.
Yes, yes.
I
So
mean, we can actually change the uh, depart 1, right? Instead of department, you can put location and use D as location.
yeah,
That's
we
what I'm
can do
saying.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
still. Location is a string and department number is an integer.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we can drop it and create it, I guess.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
depart 1. You can actually copy the old typed command, I believe.
So yes, here we are having.
This one, okay.
Yeah. Let me create the table again.
Okay.
Use lessons.
Partition,
Yeah, partition by our.
decommand, yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
well, we can specify either way, right? Even though the
Yeah,
department
yeah,
number is placed last, okay.
yeah. You can specify either way, and but while the passing the by passing the data to the alias name, you need to specify in the order. First, you
Okay,
need to mention the sex and the gender, and then you need to mention the department number. That's it.
okay. I don't think there is a comma, right? Hive dot execution,
Yeah, yeah.
comma dynamic. Okay. Okay, so this one it happened earlier too. I guess you did not notice it. It threw an error 2 times. Partition does not exist.
HIVE.
I guess yes. Dot mode equal to non-string.
So
Okay.
now it's
Uh,
fine.
yes. Load overwrite.
Oh, sorry, insert override.
Insert overwrite. The part two. Partition. Decompose. Sub. Comma. Sets. Comma. DN1. Comma. Now you have to mention S, right? Okay, you said okay.
Yes.
Okay.